And that's the, like that. Going down to January of '09. The event is Laura moves in with Grant's parents in Kinston.
Yes.
And did you read the two comments of the two parties?
Grant leaves for the VI, which means Virgin Islands. Laura says she was preparing to join Grant in the Virgin Islands.
So she indicated to you that January of '09 that she was preparing to go to join him in the Virgin Islands.
Yes.
Does she indicate on the next block when she may have moved to the Virgin Islands?
Yes.
When was that?
Sometime between March of '09 and August of '09. I apologize. March of '09 to August of '09, the event is many moves around St. John's.
Okay.
And then her comment was that she moved to the Virgin Islands.
So at some point during that March of '09 to August of '09, she moved. She told you she moved to the Virgin Islands, correct?
Yes.
And on October of '09, she returns to Kinston.
Yes, that's what the event is.
Laura, part of what Laura alleges is that Grant is sleeping with multiple women
Yes.
as to her return of that time, and Grant reports that he has met Amanda during that time frame. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, November of '09, a month later, I guess Laura reports to you an event where she moves to a separate place with the children in Kinston.
Yes.
She had originally reported to you in '09 that she had moved in with Grant's parents, correct? In October of '09.
Yes.
And so she reports to you that she's moved to a separate place with the two children in Kinston in
Yeah.
November of '09.
Yes.
And in January of 2010, the event is reported as Amanda moves to New York City with
Yes.
her daughter. Grant reports to you that, what does Grant report on that?
Grant reports he moved to New York City to be with Amanda and her 21-year-old daughter, Shay.
And did Laura report as to what her knowledge was of that to you?
I don't remember. There was no comment on the parenting history survey, or I would have put it into that box.
Now, on May of 2010, it's reported Amanda and Grant moved to Raleigh.
Yes.
What does Grant and Amanda report about that event?
Grant says he was worried about Gentle. Laura reported Grant returns to Raleigh with Grant the Fourth, tells his parents they can bring Laura to the child's birthday party, quote, if she won't make a scene, end of quotes.
And then there's a May of 2010 through June of 2010. Could you read that event and what's reported?
Many disagreements between the parents about various events, including the scheduling of Gentle's surgery. And Laura's comment about that, Laura alleges Grant and Amanda started popping into, that's in quotes, Grant's parents' daycare to see the children, making her suspicious they wanted to take the children from her.
And Dr. Calloway, I believe you testified earlier that you put this information in these blocks this way, event, and then each party's comment on it, so that the reader, whoever's reading this document, can sort of make their own conclusions about what the parties are saying. Or
I
what
didn't quite hear the last part of what you said, I'm sorry.
the reader to form their own conclusions about what they should believe or not believe, I guess, about what the parties are saying.
What they would, yes, conclude.
Okay. Now, as you testified, you were, both parties agreed and consented to you being appointed as a custody evaluator in this case, correct?
I believe I was appointed by the court.
But are you aware that that was part of a consent order
Yes.
that both parties agreed to? I believe you stated earlier that Mr. Hill was the first person, Mr. Hayes' counsel was the first person to contact you about the situation
Yes.
and about your availability.
Yes.
And you talked a little bit about the joint phone conference. The retainer was paid, initial retainer was paid on August 6th, and then the joint phone conference was held about a week after. And I'm on top of page 12 is where I'm reading from your report, or getting this information from your report.
On August the 6th, the initial retainer was received. I think where I was looking earlier to get the dates were the phone conference with the attorneys was 8/11.
Okay. And there was, you made a comment in your report that Grant paid the initial retainer on August 6th, and there was some delay in starting the evaluation at that point, apparently due to Mr. Sargent's vacation, and I guess the payment issue was a difficulty due to processing the credit card.
That's on page 12, yes.
Okay. Now, your initial interview with the parties, initial interview with Ms. Ackerson was September 9th. Is that correct? Going to the date and times of service. Page 13.
I'm sorry, could you repeat your question?
I'm looking at your dates of evaluation, services, and time.
Yes.
Your initial interview with Laura Ackerson was on September 9th. Is that correct?
The first individual interview with her. The initial interview with her would have been earlier when I met with she and Mr. Hayes together, and that was on August the 26th.
I apologize. Correct. So you had the initial joint interview with the parents, and then your first interview with just Laura was September 9th, 2010?
That's correct.
And your first interview with Mr. Hayes was September 15th
Correct.
of 2010? Okay. And then there were follow-up interviews. I believe also on the 15th, there was some psychological testing done with Mr. Hayes,
Yes.
and a further interview with Mr. Hayes, and further information gathering on September 28th.
Yes.
And is it fair to say that's where most of the information that you got from both of these parties, as far as the background and their concerns, came at those initial interviews, initial meetings?
The background information came from interviews. It also came from sources like the Parenting History Survey, might also have come from collateral sources. That sort of information came throughout the course of the evaluation in different forms and different ways.
But as far as the actual information you got from the parties face-to-face, was most of that gathered in September of 2010?
No, that would not be accurate because there continued to be phone calls with them or contact with them on into the remainder of the evaluation.
Okay. So throughout the entire time that you were involved, which would be from August through May, is it fair to say that you were available by either email, you were available to the parties?
That's correct.
And so they would communicate to you through emails and letters and that kind of, and they could bring you information they thought was relevant at any point?
Yes.
Okay. In fact, you recall that you received emails from, are you aware, if your information that you gathered for this report, you gathered all the way up until the date you actually even released the report, through May, correct?
I couldn't say for sure, but I did receive information up until the time I released the report. Not sure about the day of, but yes.
There wasn't a time where you said, I'm not receiving any more information from anyone concerning this case?
That's correct.
And you interviewed Heidi Schumacher?
By phone.
That was the last interview you performed as far as in preparation for the final report. Is that correct?
It was the last collateral interview.
And that was when?
5/6/11.
And the evaluation process that you described about home visits and then about the videotaped observations, are those things you do in every case that you when you're asked to do an evaluation?
Yes, except for the videotaped observation. I said earlier the specific sort of procedure is for children under the age of 5.
The allegations regarding Laura going online and either offering some type of services or photos or some kind of communication with that was verified, correct? I mean, she admitted that she was doing that.
In here, I reported that she told me that in this report, that she was going online and providing pictures of herself.
Okay. And she described that she had actually told Grant that she was doing that.
That's also in my
She
report.
told you.
Yes.
Okay. And I believe you make a mention in your report that you didn't believe that involved the children.
Yes, I said that several times in the report.
But do you did you ever see photos? Did she or Grant ever show you photos concerning that online?
I don't remember.
So do you know whether there were photos of the children or not? You say in the report that you don't believe they were involved, but do you know?
I did not see photos of the children with men.
See photos at all from